A few years ago, my best friend Jake and I decided to take a midweek camping trip to Blackwood Forest. I was 23 and he was 24. We parked near a secluded trailhead, slung our gear over our shoulders, and started hiking. After about 20 minutes, we found the perfect spot, a small clearing surrounded by tall pines, hidden from the trail but with just enough space for 2 tents and a fire. As the sun dipped below the treetops, we had camp set up and a fire roaring. Jake was already grilling some burgers, and the smell alone was worth the trip. Jake always said the biggest danger in the forest wasn't wildlife, it was other people. I used to roll my eyes at that, but that night, I'd learned just how right he was. We cracked open a couple of beers and settled in, music playing softly from Jake's speaker. The moment was perfect, until it wasn't. It started with a faint sound, like footsteps crunching through the underbrush. I paused the music, and we both strained our ears. Then we heard it, a low, eerie humming. It was close, maybe 20 or 30 feet away, but the trees made it impossible to see who or what it was. Jake grabbed his flashlight, but by the time he turned it on, the humming stopped. "Probably just another camper," he said, though his tone was far from confident. We tried to shake it off, going back to our card game, but the mood had shifted. Then, out of nowhere, a large stick came flying into the middle of our campfire, sending embers scattering. "What the hell?" Jake yelled, jumping to his feet. A low, raspy chuckle echoed from the darkness. That was it for me. I was ready to pack up and leave, but Jake insisted we stay. He said we'd keep the bear spray close and take turns keeping watch. Jake took the first shift while I crawled into my tent. I didn't sleep well, my mind replaying that creepy laugh over and over. I must have dozed off because the next thing I knew, I woke up to the sound of my tent zipper sliding down. "Jake," I whispered grudgingly, expecting him to wake me for my turn. But the shadowy figure at the opening didn't answer. It just stood there, head tilted, silently staring at me. My heart was pounding as I squinted in the dark. "Jake?" I repeated, louder this time. The figure zipped the tent shut without a word. I sat there paralyzed until something clicked in my brain. I grabbed my flashlight and unzipped the tent. Outside, the fire was out and the campsite was eerily quiet. Jake wasn't at the folding table where he'd been reading earlier. Panicked, I ran to his tent, unzipping it in one frantic motion. There he was, sound asleep. "Jake, wake up," I hissed, shaking him hard. When he finally stirred, I told him someone had been in my tent. "What?" He mumbled, confused. I barely finished explaining before we both heard it again, that damn humming, but this time closer. Jake grabbed the bear spray, and we huddled together in his tent. The next few hours dragged on, every snap of a twig or rustle of leaves setting us on edge. At one point, I swore I heard breathing just outside the tent. Jake must have heard it too because he whispered, "Don't move." When dawn finally broke, we wasted no time packing up and heading back to the car. We didn't speak much on the hike back, both of us too rattled by the night's events. It's been years since that trip, and I haven't been camping since. Jake still brings it up sometimes, joking about how I'm scarred for life. But deep down, I think he knows I'm not the only one haunted by that night in Blackwood Forest. Because whoever or whatever was out there wasn't just messing with us. They wanted us to know they were there, watching. And that's the part I can't shake.